Hello, my name is Nicole Grimes. I'm an Associate Professor of Music here at Trinity College Dublin.
And I'm Denise Neary. I'm Professor at the Royal Irish Academy of Music.
We're here today to launch the Expansive Canvas, large-scale form in the music of 19th century women composers. This is an international conference and collaborative symposium that will take place here in Dublin between the 26th and 28th of August 2025. We are incredibly excited that this is a collaboration between Trinity College Dublin and the Royal Irish Academy of Music. In this conference and collaborative symposium, we are bringing together four central pillars of performance, music history and music analysis. The third pillar is music education, and the fourth pillar is interdisciplinary perspectives. We very much look forward to welcoming you to Dublin in August, and we look forward to receiving your submissions for this conference by the deadline, which is on the 31st of January 2025. Large-scale form is the expanse of an extended piece of music, and it refers to the expanse over a period of time. And so that can be either a multi-movement composition or a single movement composition, and it embraces genres such as symphonies, sonatas, operas, chamber music, and so on. It's perhaps useful to think of large-scale form in music in relation to other art forms. So the analogy in literature would be the novel, or perhaps an analogy in the visual arts might be mural painting, or some sort of narrative painting where there is an idea that's developed in an expansive way over time. Domestic genres of music are wonderful. They do not have the same expanse that we have in large-scale form, and that in itself is bound up with a number of artistic and socio-political matters. So artistically, it doesn't allow us to see women composing in what are the most prestigious forms, perhaps, in music of this time. And socio-politically and socio-economically, large-scale form takes more resources to compose and to perform, and quite often women did not have access to these resources, and so there's an intricate relationship between the compositions we have by women and the quantity of compositions we have by women and these other forces that are at play. And it's one of the things we're trying to do with this conference and symposium, is to redress the balance in our knowledge of how women have contributed to large-scale form in music. The work in this project is ostensibly split into four pillars. The first of those is performance. The second is music history and music analysis. The third is music education. And the fourth is interdisciplinarity. And with this conference and collaborative symposium, we're aiming to bring all four of those pillars together. And this is one of the wonderful things in our collaboration with the Royal Irish Academy of Music and Trinity College Dublin, is that we are bringing together that expertise and really playing to all of our strengths in those regards. And so one of the things we're interested in doing from an interdisciplinary perspective is looking at the contribution of women to large-scale forms in other art forms, and then really interrogating the question of where music is in relation to those other art forms in the 19th century. But we also want to interrogate the state of scholarship on the art forms in the 19th century. So for instance, if we think of the amount of scholarship that has been written on George Eliot and her novels in the 19th century, music lags far behind. And we're interested in interrogating why and how that is the case. So we're really trying to reach all facets of musical research, to reach across the arts and humanities, and also to reach our public through the involvement of industry leaders, so that we can open these questions up to the public, to audiences for concerts, and to the companies that publish scores and set the programs for concert halls and order the collections for libraries and so on. We really want to open up this conversation in the widest possible way.
Ireland is a great location for this work. We're easily accessible from around Europe and from North America, South America, other nations. And we would like to extend our Céad Míle Fáilte to people coming from all over the world to visit our beautiful city of Dublin and the historic venues in which we're holding this conference at Trinity College Dublin and the Royal Irish Academy of Music. We are a small island nation and we have great discussions already between performance, scholarship, industry and music education. And this conference and symposium gives us the opportunity to open up this discussion and perhaps affect change when it comes to women in music. We already have the Society for Music Education Ireland doing great work, and this conference will give the opportunity to work together in a more tangible way and perhaps affect change in curriculums and syllabuses. For example, the music syllabus for the Leaving Cert in Ireland does not include any set works by women composers. This is an issue that has been looked at over the last number of years. For example, almost 10 years ago, Laura Watson wrote an article on the lack of women in the music education syllabus in Ireland, and nothing has changed yet. This conference gives us the opportunity to open up this discussion, working with people across all of these pillars: performance, education, scholarship, industry, and affect change. If we're successful in this, we could serve as a model for other parts of the world.
We are very excited about the relationship between the Royal Irish Academy of Music and Trinity College Dublin. And it is part of the strategic plan for Trinity College Dublin to strengthen that relationship. That relationship is already thriving. There is a huge amount of work underway in the realm of education and music education and drama education in particular. There is a magnificent general elective course run by Dr. Lindsay Callahan that draws students from both institutions on music making and society. And there is the opportunity for students in both environments to really gain something else by being exposed to what happens in a larger university and the expertise that there is at the Royal Irish Academy of Music. The Expansive Canvas is a venture that we very much want to have undergraduate and postgraduate students at its heart. And in many ways, that work has already begun to interweave the material that we are exploring in this conference, both into undergraduate and postgraduate teaching.
In the strategic plan of the Royal Irish Academy of Music, there's a focus on strengthening the relationship with Trinity College Dublin. For example, the new campus at the Royal Irish Academy of Music does not include a black box theatre because we use the Samuel Beckett Theatre at Trinity College Dublin for our opera productions. There is a great focus on women composers in these operas. And for example, earlier this year, the Royal Irish Academy of Music produced Pauline Viardot's Cendrillon, and there have been productions of operas by Francesca Caccini and Elizabeth McConkie in previous years.
We have both short-term and long-term goals with this project. In the short term, we want to host a large conversation. We want to provoke responses. We want to get people involved from industry to performance to scholarship to really come together and look at this issue in the round to see what it is that we have by women composers, what is being performed, what is not being performed, why on both counts. And we want to look at what scores are available, what scholarship is available. And so it's going to be a large interrogation, I would say, that is going to have the most wonderful soundtrack with all of the performance that will feature throughout this really exciting event. I would say that that is our short-term goal. In the long term, I think that we would really like to affect change in a number of ways. One, as Denise has already mentioned, we would like to have an impact on the national curriculum with the hope that that might serve as a model internationally. But we also want to invigorate what is available to us by way of resources. So we want to instigate work on new scores, new critical editions. We want to create platforms for performance and to have recordings of those performances that in time will become available. And we want to create a body of scholarship that means if, for instance, either of us has a doctoral student who wants to work on these projects or an undergraduate student, there is a body of literature available to them in the same way as there is for the male canon. We want to attempt to redress the imbalance in resources and in the long term, keep this conversation going in a way that it speaks to posterity and it creates lasting resources that our students for decades will have.
As doctoral studies coordinator at the Royal Irish Academy of Music, I have supervised over 30 doctoral dissertations to completion. Many of the students undertaking these projects started off thinking about looking at women composers, but didn't proceed with those ideas because of the lack of resources. So I know the ability of my students, but I can also see the challenges involved in doing projects on women composers. So there's a lack of scores, there's a lack of recordings of music by women composers, and there's a lack of performance history. So this makes it difficult to complete a doctoral project or any other kind of project on female composers. So one recent doctorate looked at large-scale forms by 3 women composers. And there should be the opportunity for other people to do this kind of work. So in this conference and symposium, we have the opportunity to expand the resources that are available for our students so that they can as easily work on female composers as they can on male composers.
We are convinced that there is something in the air here at Trinity College Dublin, and we would very much like to join in this initiative. Having recently moved home from California, I was inspired to see that 4 new busts have been installed in the Trinity Long Room. Those are of Ada Lovelace, Rosalind Franklin, Lady Augusta Gregory, and Mary Wollstonecraft. And this is incredibly important in terms of how our students think of this institution, the role that women play historically in this institution, and addressing larger issues to do with women's studies and legacy of women's studies across all of the disciplines that we hope will be involved in this conference and collaborative symposium.
In addition to the installation of these 4 busts of these fabulous females, we also have the recent unveiling of the portrait of the first female chancellor, the portrait of former President Mary Robinson in the dining hall. And there's a lovely resonance with the naming of the library after her friend, the poet Ivan Boland.